Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 123 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. I'm joined by Mondo.
Hello, Jason.
Hey, Mondo.
Hey.
And tonight, we have two great returning guests. We have Joe and Chase from the Horror Queers. Welcome back.
Hello. Happy to be back.
Thank you guys for coming on in the middle of holiday season.
No problem. I don't know. I was trying to say one thing and another thing was coming out. So clearly I'm a good podcaster.
But why don't you tell our listeners about Horror Queers and what you got in store for the next coming months? Anything big plans for the new year?
Yeah, so Horror Queers is a weekly podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, but it's Trace and I doing a queer analysis of either a queer film or a film with campy undertones and other things like that. And yeah, we're just kind of wrapping up the year right now. And in January, oh boy, we've got a hot mess of weird films. I just don't want to reveal it because some of them are so wacky, but
when does this episode drop?
Probably Sunday. So if you don't want to say, you can tell me off camera if you want.
No, we can say we're kicking off the year because it'll be 2 days for it. We're kicking off the year with Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
Oh, yes. Hot take. I think the sequel is better than the original.
Dude,
that's what I think.
Me too. That is not a hot take. That's like most Hellraiser fans will say the sequel's better than the original.
I mean, the first one.
It's not a knock on the original.
That's not a knock at all.
You did such a good job expanding the universe that it became more iconic, I think.
It's just it's just so balls to the wall.
Dude, I like 3 and 4.
And Julia, and I still also say Julia is one of the most underrated horror villains.
Yes, 100%.
I was at a convention.
I just saw a picture of her at a convention, and I just looked at her and said, "Man, I want them to do a new Hellraiser movie and somehow get her in there because she looks so great."
Yeah, she won't do that.
Well, I was at the convention, and they actually had a Julia action figure, but I was like, it was more money than I could spend. But I was like, I just want it so bad. She's so good in that sequel too. She's good in the first one, but she's kind of becoming the villain.
She gets
and then
so much more to do.
Yeah, exactly. I really wish they kept her but then everybody wanted Pinhead to be front and center.
Well, she did refuse to come back for another film, even though they were planning on using her in that third movie.
I did not know that. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Refused.
Declined to come back. She didn't refuse.
But now I'm a little behind on your show, but I loved your toxic masculinity month. It was really enjoyable.
That's
interesting.
Informative, interesting. Yeah.
But Funny Games is always a fun movie to talk about with people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like we had really good. There were some fun conversations to be had in there. I feel like even talking about Hard Candy, we had a fun time, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, just because it's a difficult subject matter doesn't mean that it isn't a fun time. I think it also lends itself to a lot of serious discussion.
And the App People episode was really good too.
Thank you. Yeah, we like that one. That was a lot of learning for us because there was so much backstory to that we had no idea was a thing.
Yeah, no, I read the short story just a few years ago, and then I watched the movie right afterwards, and I was like, wow, people missed out on that one. All right. Well, just a quick announcement, really. So we only have one more episode, Tales from the Crypt, left to review for the show before we're done with the whole series.
Wow.
So people keep asking us what we're going to do next, and we finally sat down and talked about it. And we're going to do a couple series, kind of switching back and forth a little bit. But in January and February, we're going to do season 1 and season 2 of Black Mirror.
Nice.
Those are only 3 episodes each, so we're going to do a movie somewhere in that month, depending. So we'll do 3 episodes in the movie, 3 episodes in the movie, and then in March and April we're going to do season 1 of Creep Show, and kind of do the same format because that's 6 episodes. So we'll do 3 episodes in the movie. I'm sure there's a fifth month Sunday somewhere in there, but
then you can start doing anthology like American Horror Story, where you're just doing a whole season at a time.
Oh boy.
So that's over. I think we're going to be kind of going through that probably throughout most of probably in 2024 we're going to be switching between Black Mirror episodes and Creep Show episodes.
For the record,
good.
Jason never talked to me or Jody about this. This is the first time hearing about it. So
surprise!
No.
I'm just kidding. Jason's like the most organized person in the world. He when he plans our business meetings, it's well in advance. Google Calendar invites, like
That's the way to go.
Production. That's Joe. I don't know what I would do without Joe's organizational skills.
Yeah, I'm saying same boat you are then, because that's a guy there.
All right, but tonight we're talking Chillerama from 2011. It has kind of an extended release. It premiered at a couple different film festivals and came out on video and DVD, I think in November of 2011. So again, this is a horror anthology. The kind of wraparound is that it is the last night taking of a drive-in movie theater before it gets converted, I think, into a mall or some sort of corporate shopping center. So all these various people are gathering to watch a bunch of movies. And let's just say right off the bat that this movie is camp to the max. And bad taste to the max, and like all those things. It literally starts out with a guy digging into his ex-wife or his deceased wife, late wife, I wasn't entirely sure, digging into her grave for some, quote, deadhead, as he says it, where the corpse reanimates and bites his dick off.
Yep.
Unless you immediately know what you're in for.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly.
Yes. Causing him to be infected with whatever she had. And then he goes to work at the drive-in movie where he's infecting the popcorn that people are eating. And that's, so we have a couple different characters. We have the owner, played by, I'm on the wrong spreadsheet.
It's like Richard Reel or something.
Richard Reel, yeah.
Who's
from Cecil Kaufman.
From Office Space fame and his jump to conclusions, man.
Yeah, he's in a lot of different things.
He is.
Yeah, he has the work of a character actor, but I don't know if we call him a character actor.
So he's the owner, and he's like considering killing himself. That's kind of a thing that happens. And then there's these other people who are like trying to watch the movie. There's a lot of different like side characters that are just kind of there. And then we're the anthology. Every segment of the anthology is a movie that they're watching. In between each one, we get like a slight update leading up to the climax at the end. But we'll hop into the first segment. It's called Wadzilla. It is a spoof of 1950s monster movies, and is about a guy who has a low sperm count, a single sperm count looked like, and he's given an experimental medication to jumpstart things, but turns out it makes his one sperm go ginormous, which after leaving his body attacks New York City.
As you do.
As it does. And with a great practical human-sized sperm by the Kyoto brothers. It's like there's different stages.
Like Godzilla-sized sperm.
Yeah. Well, eventually, yeah. But it starts off like almost like a chest burster.
Yeah.
In a way. Dick burster, whatever you want to call it. Mondo, why don't you start us off? What did you think of this segment?
I think this was some goofy fun because I love the Blob. I love that. I love the original. I love the remake. So I kind of like at the very end when they give that nod to the Colonial Theater and where the where the Blob was shot at. So I actually found this one to be a lot of fun. Although like there's some head scratching moments in this. Like I don't know, if I was on a first date with someone and I blew their bathroom up, I would just climb out the window and never talk to them again. Like, like what happened in their bathroom there. And he could have gotten a vasectomy at any time. I'm also going to say that. And then that taking care of things. But
he wanted a higher sperm count. That vasectomy is not going to fix that.
You know, if there's one thing us men are good at doing, it's putting other people before us. So
right.
As a in general, but yeah, but for the most part though, I thought this was actually just a fun kind of goofy segment. I didn't really know what I was in for until then when I saw the dick eating bit off at the beginning. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have some wacky fun here. And just to talk about the wraparound too, I love the setting of the drive-in. It's just such a cool look and gives the movie such a cool feel. Yeah, I was entertained, I would say, by the first. I wouldn't call it great filmmaking, but you give me some practical effects and some rubber monsters, and I'm kind of happy.
Mondo, was this your first time seeing this?
You know what? I want to say I'd seen it before, but I definitely wasn't paying attention because I would not have forgotten the segments in this.
Right.
All right. Joe or Trace?
Joe, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, so Trace and I had seen one of the entries of this, but we hadn't watched the entire film when we talked about I Was a Teenage Werebear, so I had a sense of the tone from that short, although I would also argue that that one is almost the most different. So yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think you really know what you're getting in for from both the wraparound, but then especially this one, which is just filled with kind of corny dick and boob jokes. And as someone who sometimes struggles with American humor, I was surprised at how much I really got on board with this, particularly when it's getting delivered by people like Lynch, or, you know, of course, we've got Ray Wise as the Doctor, and they've got terribly on the nose names. So that kind of stuff like ended up really tickling my funny bone. And then the fact that we explode this thing and everybody just gets covered in jizz was quite amusing.
Yeah, I agree. This is actually my favorite out of the 4 segments.
Oh, wow.
I will just preface this with, I think as a whole, this 2-hour runtime was a struggle for me. I would have liked a lot of these more if it was like part of a television series where each one was a different episode, as opposed to put into a 2-hour movie. Because a 2-hour movie of this, by the end, I was like, let's go.
Or just shave off like 10 minutes from each one of these, because so many of them, it's like the joke is one joke stretched out to 30 minutes. And sometimes it really works, and other times you're like, okay, no, I need it to end.
And that being said, with all of these, I mean, it's a low budget effort. I saw some funnily enough, when I logged this on Letterboxd, Joe Lynch had because he logs all of his own movies and he like talks about them, and he was like, I'm really happy we got to do this in like such a rush time span with no money, with like nothing to do. So like when you know like their work, this is like a bunch of high school kids, basically, not really, but like making a movie on their own. So that being said, though, I think that this one is the most successful at both it's homages with the 50s sci-fi stuff. Like that's what we're doing with this particular entry. I think is the most successful at doing that. But I also think I did laugh the most in this one. I thought the hit to miss ratio of the jokes was the best here.
Yeah. I do think, I kind of see what you're saying. I think maybe like more extended trailers, kind of like they did in Grindhouse for those little mini segments.
This does feel like someone saw Grindhouse and said, let's do that.
Yeah, and made the wraparound a little more meaty, because I feel like there's almost, we'll get to the overall film eventually in the bit, but I think the overall wraparound, when they try to make it a thing at the end, it's just not enough meat on that bones.
Quite work.
But yeah, I really actually like the physical humor in this. Adam Rifkin is a director, and he's the star, and like he does some great physical comedy work, which I found really entertaining. The names are hilarious. General Bukkake. Eric Roberts. I think I laughed out loud. I literally laughed out loud at that.
Adam Rifkin too. He's like the most seasoned of all these directors. Like, admittedly, I'm not super familiar with his filmography, but like he directed Psycho Cop 2. He wrote Mouse Hunt and Small Soldiers. So like he had been in the industry for a while. Joe, did you look in to see if he was gay? Because part of me thinks he is, but I couldn't find anything that confirmed it.
I didn't look, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the whole movie has a very high comfort level with sexuality overall. I mean, we're going to talk about some of the more tricky / maybe even problematic parts as we go along. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. He's definitely got the firmest hand in terms of like approaching the material, but also keeping the train on the tracks, I would argue.
Way to put it.
He also directed Detroit Rock City, which I think is really underrated. I like that movie a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next segment. I Was a Teenage Werebear, which is a spoof of beach musicals set in 1962. Is about I'm just reading the Wikipedia description. It's about a closeted kid who meets those quote other closeted kids who, when aroused, turn into leather daddy werebears.
Yep.
That's it. I like the concept of this one. I think technically this is the roughest one. I think this has a lot of issues technically, like both in lighting, editing, effects. But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I mean, like watching infamous gay porn star Brent Corrigan like sing and dance was a delight.
Yeah,
now, I wonder whether people...
Sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if like the rough parts are, I won't say intentional, but are just part of the charm. They think like.
Well, I mean, like, go look at something like Psycho Beach Party, which is doing the exact same thing this short is trying to do, and I think that movie does it a lot better. But this movie also has that grindhouse aesthetic, which Psycho Beach Party does not have. So maybe you could make an argument to where it's like that's the reason for the roughness of it.
And I don't know one way or the other. I'm just.
I mean, we should also note that this is the one that's set primarily at the beach in the day, so you're contending with like arguably the hardest to work with FX wise. I mean, I wish the makeup was a little bit better when we transitioned from younger to older actors. Yeah, I think this one's just a little rougher around the edges. But I think it's also got the heaviest lifting job, because if you don't like musicals, this one is immediately going to rub you the wrong way.
But at least, like, I'm not a big musical person, but it does the music short. It doesn't take too long with it, so I don't get bored. So, it's not like a musical where they go off on, like, 8-minute kind of thing, like Showstoppers or something like that. Like, it keeps moving.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a 26-minute short, so we don't have time for that shit.
Yeah, I know, but there's still 4 original songs in this production.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did thought that was pretty funny how when they transition, it's just completely different actors. They don't even not even trying to match at all.
Oh yeah, that all worked. But I agree with Joe, where I think like the face makeup is fine, but it's like that's the only thing. Like there's no makeup on the rest of their body. Which again, time
it might be
constraints,
part
budget,
of the joke.
Maybe that's the intent, part of the joke, whatever. But yeah, it's just kind of like okay, that's what we're doing here. But I will say, this is kind of this director, Tim Sullivan. I've only seen one of his other films, which is 2001 Maniacs, and he is a queer director. And so that kind of like rough production aspect is kind of par for the course for him. Like this is, now that I've seen 2001 Maniacs, I kind of get this a bit more.
Right. Yeah. He also plays the coach. And I'm also wondering whether we're used to, now that it's been like 10 years in technology, we're used to better produced, better looking, cheaper films. Like, because you can shoot a movie with your phone now.
Right.
Yeah. That wasn't exactly something you could do back then. So I'm wondering with low budget technology then is different level than low budget technology we're used to in almost 2024.
Yeah, I can see that. Although there's sometimes that really old technology, probably before this, led way to a lot of really cool underground movies. But I know what you mean. Like, I think the problem is nowadays the technology is so good, and you have these bad movies that they try to get too ambitious with, and they look great, and it kind of loses that charm with our 4K everything.
Yeah.
But so I appreciate the overt queerness in this. I mean, like, it's only quote unquote 12 years ago, but it's still kind of like, we weren't seeing like queerness on this level in horror films at the time.
Yeah, I was reading, at least on Wikipedia, that they had a lot of trouble finding actors that would play gay characters, and then they had trouble finding gay actors who wanted to be, in a quote schlocky horror movie.
Yeah. Which, look, Brent Corrigan isn't the best actor, but I think he does okay here. His singing is fine.
It's passable. Yeah.
Yeah, passable. There you go.
How do you guys feel that it handled, like, the themes that they were trying to touch on? Like,
so the first time we saw this, I definitely took issue with the amounts of male rape. Like, as Trey said, it's nice to see some overt queerness, but I'll confess that I don't really enjoy rape as a storytelling device in any format. And this one is very much like, oh, okay, well, when we get our revenge, we're going to rape the bad guys. And that doesn't sit super, super well with me. It was interesting watching then the rest of the film where we actually get a lot more rape and often male rape. So I was like, oh, I guess it's maybe just a theme of Chillerama that, as I said earlier, we are a bit comfortable with sexuality. Like, we're not afraid of doing a lot of these kinds of jokes. So if you approach it as the whole thing is kind of in poor taste, it does go down easier.
Yeah, that's how I kind of took it. I was less bothered by it on this watch, maybe because age, time difference, but also in context with the other 3 shorts. It's, this is an exercise in poor taste, and it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't as upsetting to me as I found it. When did we watch this? Like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
I
like
don't
if
know.
this was presented as a drama and then it just randomly had a bunch of male rape
Yeah.
in it, you'd be like, oh god, what are we doing? But because the whole thing is so over the top ridiculous and campy, like I saw a couple of other people took issue with Brent Corrigan's girlfriend who gets her head crushed in the car accident, and then you know, she's basically a bit of an invalid for the rest of the film. You know, you could just as easily take offense to that and say, oh well, that torpedoes the whole short, I can't watch it anymore.
Well, I think the problem with that is that's just a one joke thing that stops being funny the second time it happens. But I will say, I mean, like not to say that male rape is progressive, but like it's refreshing that we're getting a lot of male rape in this movie and not female rape. I mean, we're still getting some female rape, but like not as much.
I can't imagine watching any one of these segments completely on its own with no context without like being like warmed up for it.
Yeah. It was
that just seems really like a shocking idea.
But going to like Chattanooga Film Festival, they have shorts blocks. They could definitely fit them in there. But they do also theme their shorts blocks, so you would get these 5 really, really wacky films.
Right.
Yeah.
But so, Joe, did you walk away less offended by this, or were you as offended as you were supposed to be based on what the movie's trying to do?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I was offended, kind of like Jason was saying, because we had just watched the one short and it was out of context, and I was just like, this feels like it doesn't really fit in here despite the campy tone. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, oh my god, I've just seen so much ridiculous antics, most of it sexual, in the course of the 4 shorts. It's like, I can't be mad at this movie because it is so over the top.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, in 2001 Maniacs, Tim Sullivan does rape the gay guy with a fire poker. He literally gets spit roasted over a
right.
Yeah,
right.
That's the one with Robert Englund. Am I thinking of?
Yeah, and Lynch Hayes in that one too, actually.
And
Lynch Hayes in everything.
Surprisingly good. Like I didn't hate it. I was like,
no, I mean, it's schlocky, low budget Drek, but like that's what it's trying to be. So I did have fun watching it. Actually, it's shitty, but on purpose.
Right?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel with this whole thing. It's like it's all trying to be bad humor. It's not trying to be anything more than it is. So it's like you can't.
I agree. I just think it's a matter. Okay, well, is this funny and is it entertaining? And I think because of the length, not just of the movie as a whole, but even the individual shorts, which are like 25 to 30 minutes a piece, I do think it wears thin by the end of almost all of these segments.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one, The Diary of Anne Frankenstein, which, as a Jewish person, I can just tell that title to my wife and she starts laughing at it, like without anything else.
Speaking of offensive, what did you think of this one?
I loved it.
I like it too. I actually do like this one.
See, I feel like this one is almost the most successful for me because the joke creeps up on you because of the way they film it, right? So they are actually speaking German at the beginning, and then it's only sort of.
Scheiße.
Let me do the plot synopsis. We'll dive in.
Yeah.
All right. This is a black and white film about Hitler trying to create the perfect killing machine to win the war using a book by that he found in Anne Frank's attic, written by her distant relative Victor Frankenstein, and he goes on to build his monster with obviously body parts, etc., and it turns out to be an almost anti-Semitic caricature, but in the context, I think it's really funny.
Right.
His Frankenstein, which obviously goes poorly for him, and actually the guy in the suit is Kane Hodder.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And again, this is directed by Adam Green, and this is the kind of thing where they gave him the title and he worked from there. They said, here's your title, but you can do anything you want. You want to use that title.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I really like Joel David Moore because he would have been buddy with Adam Green because he was in his movie Spiral that came out like a couple years before this.
Right.
But yeah, I actually think that both Moore and Christina Cleave, who plays his like slut,
she's
great. Really, really good. Like I thought, even when they weren't speaking, like Cleave has so many moments where she's just doing like some random thing off to the side, and I was like, all right, you get the tone of this. Let's go. And by the time Hava Nagila plays at the end, you're just like, yes.
Also, Trace, did you just call Eva Braun a slut?
Yeah, it's Hitler's slut.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You're married at least. I just thought there's just so many actual pretty good jokes, and they do that one thing I love in movies is where they're supposed to be speaking a foreign language. I think everyone in the Frank family is speaking real German.
Yes.
Pretty much everyone else is just speaking gibberish.
Oh yeah, like he even says "Viva la" something, and I was like, "Sir, that's French."
They say Boba Fett at one point.
Yeah.
And there's a part where the Hitler character is yelling "kill, kill, kill," but he's saying something different every time.
Every time, yeah.
I just imagine how you go about that. So I'm thinking like in Borat, where he's supposed to be speaking. I can't remember what the name of the language is, but it's a lot of Hebrew and Yiddish.
Yeah.
All that. So I'm just imagine where you write a script of what someone's supposed to be saying, and then you rewrite it as gibberish. Like that seems like an interesting challenge.
Yeah. And it was a joke that just kept paying off for me because it's the same type of joke, but it's a different joke with every line of dialogue. So this kept me into it for most of its runtime.
Well, and then we still have the physicality of the performances, right? Like, I'm a sucker. If you're going to go really stupid humor, like give me spoof level of humor. So when Hitler and Eva Braun are screaming, and then they keep screaming because they're waiting for that one guy to die, and they just get exhausted to the point where and it goes on so long to the point that it stops being funny and then becomes funny again, and I loved it.
Right. There's a lot of good sight gags. Like there's a part where one of the German soldiers jumps on they call him Meshuggah. Is the Frankenstein monster.
Calling him Meshuggah.
Yeah, which means crazy in Yiddish. But this guy like jumps on his back and he's like swinging him around, and then they change to a different shot. It's a very, very obvious dummy, and you can see like the helmet is falling off, but it's like tied by like a string.
And then when they throw him onto the table, then it's a black stuntman, and then it changes back to the original actor.
A lot of these shorts do that, where it's like, oh, someone gets their head like bashed, but it's like we just see a dummy head, like whenever we do the cut. But that was all really good. But
usually, like in a quote good movie, they do it very quickly, so they don't notice, or they like change the angle. But here, it's
you're just like,
right. I thought that was really, really funny. Or when like Hitler locks him in the lab and he can't get out, he just walks around the set. You see the set.
I'm telling I'm really into Adam Green's sense of humor. Like he can do like horror when it needs to be, but his horror comedies are just so delightful.
Right. This is almost like Mel Brooks, a little more heightened in a way.
Yes, that's the vibe I was getting as well.
Like the fact that they use a menorah to
the partial decapitation.
But of course, I'm watching like you're lighting it the wrong way, you dumbass, because it's supposed to be left to right.
Hitler wouldn't
this was
know.
very much when it. I mean, I'm not Jewish. I was born and raised Catholic, but like when it started, I was like, "Oh Lord!" Like,
it could go.
What are we doing with this? And then like, the offensiveness like worked constantly for me. Like it just got better and funnier and funnier.
Well, because it's all pointed at the Germans, none of the Jews.
Yeah.
Which is why it worked so well. And he's like taking a menorah and shoving it through a guy's face. Come on.
Yeah, it's good.
You have to love that.
Doesn't he kill someone with a dreidel too?
Yeah, he throws it into a dreidel in the guy's mouth. There's a bottle of like gefilte fish on the table, like with the Shevitz label.
Oh, maybe this one is my favorite one, actually.
It's really good.
And I love that he basically he doesn't know they're losing the war because he's been obsessed with his puppy puzzle. And the end, he's just like, goddamn puppies.
And then Meshuggah finishes the puppy puzzle like immediately.
And also figures out how to take over Poland at the same time.
Oh yes.
Well, but that's the thing. So like, honestly, when he's first doing the like what World War II, aren't we in World War I? Like that didn't really work for me at first. But then when we introduced the puzzle, I was like, oh, okay, there's your joke. There's your punchline.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone's gonna have their triggers or whatever you're used to. I'm used to schlock. So I was not offended by this whatsoever.
No. Is Adam Green? Is Adam Green Jewish?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, he is. Okay.
And we have plenty of very good, serious depictions, especially of the Frank family. There's a great movie this year that I'm just telling everyone about called A Small Light about that I recommend to everybody. But sometimes you have to go this way. It's part of art is to, go in bad taste to go in the place you're not supposed to.
Right.
That's what art is there for.
somebody brought up Mel Brooks, but the scene where he's what's behind your back and he's showing like nothing, it's just my hand. That's just 100% a Mel Brooks gag.
Show me the other hand. What, this hand? Yeah.
All right, and then we start off with another segment, which thankfully is cut off very quickly.
See, this would have worked if we had done a bit more of this in some of the other shorts as well, right? Where it feels like we're starting a film, but then it either needs to cut out or it is more of a trailer, as you said, Jason, because I didn't mind this, but as soon as we stopped it, I was like, good call. That was the right move.
Yeah.
Because I remember I saw this whole film when it came out, back then, but I didn't remember all the beats. So when this came up, I'm like, oh no. And then it stopped. I was like, okay, this is why I don't remember this part.
Right. Whenever a movie's longer than 90 minutes, I always think, damn it, what could they have cut from this thing so I can get it done in 90 minutes? This is what I probably would have cut.
I think this was extra. I mean, not extra, but I think this might have been cut from some versions of the film, or maybe they wanted to cut it because I saw also Joe Lynch saying like, "I'm so glad we got to keep this in there."
Right. So we're talking about is a short segment called Defecation, which was basically a bunch of shit jokes. And I think is this supposed to be like a John Waters Flamingos kind of send up?
I guess. I mean,
you can call it anything.
But I think it's also a play on the way we used to market old horror films, right? Like the William Castle, as soon as you start seeing this, it's the tingler, you're going to feel it. In this case, it's going to make you shit your pants.
There was one bit I liked, where's the priest? I think he said like the power of shit compels you. I don't know why though. So he brings out like a shit crucifix. I don't know why, but I thought that's really funny.
Okay, this is Joe Lynch's review of his own film on Letterboxd, but he says the zombie movie cut re-edited with just the interstitials, defecation, and the finale. So there must just be a version of it that's like just his cut, like his movie.
Nice.
Okay.
But anyways, that part gets cut off rather quickly after only like a minute or like 2, maybe 3 minutes at the most, including the little preamble. Because the full-on zombie outbreak has occurred at the movie theater or at the drive-in. And not just zombies, but I guess they're rape zombies, which is a little icky.
Yeah.
I wasn't even bothered by that. I just thought a lot of this got old really quickly. Yes. I think this might be which sucks. I really, really, really like Joe Lynch's work. I like a lot of it. Wrong Turn 2, I think, is one of the best sequels ever made, hands down. But I just got bored with this very quickly.
Well, it's because there's nowhere new to take it, right? As soon as the zombie outbreak happens, we see, okay, they all seem to be reacting in a highly sexual way. It's kind of Cronenbergian, early Cronenberg, Shivers and Rabid and so on. And the gore itself is good. And I like the idea of the blue kind of liquid that's infecting people that carried over from the opening sequence. But then it just becomes a sort of not great zombie film. And we don't know any of these characters. We needed to focus in on just a couple. I think there's an attempt at subversion with the couple that we want to get together where he's always waiting to ask the counter girl and then we just kill them. But it doesn't work because we also don't know them well enough to even care that much.
Well, that's the thing though. You said we've technically been seeing all these people for the past 90 minutes between films. But whenever they were actually the story in this fourth segment, I was like, who are these people again? I recognize AJ Bowen because it's AJ Bowen, but that's it.
Hey, I was getting mixed up on who is this person, who's that person. Because again, you see them for just those little cuts in between films, and they have maybe 10 minutes of screen time before the ending, and then it's I'm with you guys. I just didn't kind of care about the characters in this.
Yeah, I'm going to IMDb trying to figure out who is who. I'm like, I give up.
Well, that's the thing, because this is the wraparound, but then the wraparound becomes the fourth segment of the movie, and I honestly don't like it when anthologies do that. Keep the wraparound as the wraparound. I'm thinking of Scare Package when the wraparound became the last segment, and it was a 40-minute last segment with Joe Bob Briggs, and I was like, no, don't do this,
too much.
Don't do this, and. So I don't know. I mean, but I feel with anthologies, the wraparound's always the hardest one to do. So some people think the fix for that is to just make it one of the segments or make it your last segment. And maybe that can work, but here it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, like I said, if they would have made each segment a little bit shorter, gave us a little more development into those characters, because they really, you can tell they want us to care, but they just haven't put enough legwork into it.
Yep.
There's a lot of energy in this entire film. There's a lot of energy, like which I respect. It's just the execution isn't always there.
Well, and we have like that husband and wife who have a baby in the back.
That's AJ Bowen.
Okay, like that had really served no purpose overall. Like you could have cut that out.
But also,
there's like a brother thing going on that
do not show me a child in a horror film and insinuate that we're going to kill them, and then do all the other things we see in this film. I needed to see a prop baby just like get absolutely torpedoed out of the back window of this car or something. Like, why are we not killing that child?
Or zombie baby? Like,
I love the thought. I love the thought of that's when we cross the lines. When we kill the baby, that's when we cross the line.
Right.
Well, that's one of the major taboos.
Oh my god! And with the production vibe of this movie, like again, like just give me a baby doll and just fucking throw it across the wall and have it explode. Like
exactly.
That's
Dario Argento, this bitch. Like Dracula, Dracula it up.
Like, there's not really any taboos left in this movie. Why stop there?
And I appreciate the audacity of all of this. Like, again, this is an exercise in poor taste, and that's the John Waters aspect for me. Honestly, we're just trying to make this as like the difference is that in 2011, did we need a movie like this versus in the 70s when we did need the movies of John Waters? It's whatever. And again, I think this movie works in fits and starts.
Sure.
Did you notice the name of the drive-in is the Kaufman drive-in? After like Lloyd Kaufman,
yeah. That's Full Moon. Wait, no, Trauma. Sorry, Full Moon is Charles Band.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Joe Lynch. I think he's just kind of given this, and he did on a technical level, it's good, but I just don't think there's enough plot to really make it work. Though I will put a plug in for Suitable Flesh. Fantastic movie.
Yes. Hell yeah.
This movie, which comes out on Shudder in January. So
I really, really liked that. And Heather Graham, like, please, like, give her more work like this to do.
Yeah.
Yes, we've raved about this before because all three of us absolutely love that movie.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's real good.
I think we called it the horniest movie of the year.
It's very horny. I mean, it's up there with Saltburn, I think, is a really horny movie. Poor Things is a really horny movie, but yes.
Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because I like Barbara Crampton, but I think that she is in very bad movies all the time because it's a lot of these directors that like watched her in the 80s and they masturbated to her a lot. So they're filmmakers now and they're putting her in their movies.
Stop
and
saying that.
But that's literally what it is. But Suitable Flesh is the one where I'm like, oh, good. Like, we got one. It's a good movie that she's into.
Well, she was in the other one. Was it Jacob's Wife?
That movie's fine. She's the best part of it.
Yeah, she's a good role for her.
Yeah. But it's not a good movie. She's good in it. It's not a good movie.
Yeah. And she's actually, I met her recently, a couple months ago, and she's super nice. Super nice.
She's delightful.
Yeah.
And on social media, she's always like pushing horror projects that aren't even her. She's got a love for the genre and a love for the fans. So she's really cool on social media.
Exactly. It was for someone else's premiere that she came to help promote. Like that. That's
how like she is talented. She is a good actress, and I would like to see someone else put her in a movie.
Yeah. No, I get you. Give her some meat and potatoes to work with, and not just
Yeah.
All right, and then at the end of this segment, turns out that we're another Inception level, where turns out there's a whole theater watching the Chillerama movie that we've been watching. After some of the characters get trapped in the car, it's their last stand. Yeah, there's a bunch of crap no one cares about.
Wait,
but then go ahead.
I forgot to call shenanigans on one thing. Is when he gives them a gun and says you know how to use this, and they only have like, oh god, we only have 8 bullets.
Oh yeah,
and they leave, and then he opens up the wall and he has an arsenal. Like, what a jerk! You could have given them all that ammo, but no, you had to play the hero.
Right.
I forgot that very much upset me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So we're in the theater, and it's all the directors are sitting in the row with next to Kane Hodder. If you look in the background, commenting on the movie we're watching. I think Joe Lynch said, "Oh, that was fucking boring." And then everyone's kind of files out of the New Beverly Cinema, which is a big theater in LA. It's owned by Tarantino. It's cool because I got to see Sleepaway Camp there, sitting in front of Felissa Rose, who talked the entire movie.
Of course she did,
and I wasn't mad. I was not mad about it. So that was kind of
she's probably seen that movie 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you heard about the debacle that happened at the Joe Bob Drive-In down here in Vegas. Where I left right before this happened, but they were doing a live riff during Sleepaway Camp 1 and 2. And it was Chris Jericho and Darcy, and apparently Chris Jericho just started getting pissed and started just telling people off. Well, but because I guess people started booing because they wanted to hear the movie, and it was just a bad choice to do a riff over on a movie people wanted to watch. But it turned into like a lot of people on Reddit complaining about it.
No, that's people on Reddit too.
But you know what? They want everyone to have a good. People were saying it ruined their enjoyment. Most sane people weren't like, "Oh yeah, I had 2.8 fun days and 0.2 bad days, so I hated the fest." But I think for some people, it probably ruined their enjoyment of those movies. If that's what they came for.
Yeah.
It happens. I had a good time. At the best time. So.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. All right, let's go around, give any final thoughts on our favorite segments. Mondale, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I will agree with the consensus that this was 25 minutes too long. And that's kind of what hurted the most for me. If you'd have asked me at the beginning of the episode, my favorite segment, it would have been the first one. But then the more we talked about it, I have to go with Diary of Anne Frankenstein. Because if there's anything on this I'm going to watch again, like I might make my wife watch that with me because she'll get a kick out of it because she's trying to learn German.
That might be a detriment. She might unlearn German from that movie.
No, first of all, my wife's smart. I'm not, but she will immediately pick up that it's not German the minute she hears the Star Wars. She's a Star Wars nerd too, and I'm telling you, like I nothing wrong with that. I love Star Wars, but the Star Wars reference will get her. Yeah, the minute she hears that. And my company's based out of Germany, and when we went to Germany, she's ordering food in German and drinks in German, and I can't speak a lick of it. And
well, now's your chance to learn.
Yeah,
you should watch Diary of Frankenstein 100 times and repeat.
Yeah, you'll be good to go.
Reminds me of the episode of King of the Hill where Peggy accidentally kidnaps a child from Mexico, and they go back to Mexico, and she stands trial, and because she thinks she can speak Spanish, but she really can't, it's her speaking Spanish, and the subtitles are like, she says that she likes bulls, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right.
My favorite show of all time is King of the Hill, unapologetically. I love that show.
You and my husband would get along. I did not grow up watching King of the Hill, but I've seen a handful of episodes because he has like the whole series on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But hey, there's a reboot coming out soon, so you got that coming.
Yeah.
I've always figured Hank Hill, and I hate to say this about him, he's probably that guy that's like, yeah, I voted for Trump, but he's a jackass.
Absolutely.
He'd be the guy that voted for him, and then afterwards is like, "Fuck this guy! Why did I vote for this guy?"
I regret my choice, and then he votes for him a second time.
I will say I was never really on Mike Judge's now. I never really liked a lot of Mike Judge's cartoon work. I never cared about Beavis and Butthead, and King of the Hill never worked for me. But I really like the reboot, like the new seasons of Beavis and Butthead.
Me too.
I think they're really funny. But I will say, the more my husband forces me to watch of King of the Hill, the more I'm kind of like, yeah, but Peggy's the best character for me. So,
my wife hates Peggy because like Peggy's so full of herself. I'm like, yeah, that's why she's funny.
Yeah, that's the funny part. And Kathy and Jamie's so good in that role. Yeah.
and I forgot the guy's name, but the voice of Dale Gribble just passed away not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious how they're. Cause, do you know if they're gonna have Luann in the new seasons without Brittany? Or are they gonna recast Brittany Murphy?
Luann and Lucky,
and
now Dale Gribble. All those actors are dead.
Yeah, Luann was Brittany Murphy. I think that's where she got her start. I think was King of the Hill.
I totally forgot about that.
Well, and her husband Lucky was Tom Petty.
Yeah,
I'm
that makes
pretty
sense.
sure.
Where is that? Is that in Houston? Is that set in Houston?
Arlington, which is a fake town.
No, Arling.
Arlen. So no,
Arlington's
real.
I was like, Arlington's definitely a real city in Texas.
I don't know much about Texas. I know that.
It's been a rough day. I may have had an edible before we started, but I'm working on it.
I grew up in Houston, so I should relate to that show more, but I just don't.
All right, Joe. What final thoughts and your favorite segment?
Okay, I'm getting us back on track, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with Mando. I went into this really liking Wadzilla, and then ended up appreciating the Diary of Anne Frankenstein. But like Trey said earlier, I think this movie is just operating at kind of a peak the whole time. Its energy is infectious until it becomes exhausting. So cut out 25 minutes, and I love the enthusiasm. If you go in looking for classy jokes or high art, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But, honestly, if this had just been a little bit shorter, this would have been a pretty solid time, because I was chuckling. I was laughing a lot. So this was a good way to kill some time.
Yeah, again, in agreement with all of y'all. It's just, I don't know. Do we cut out one short, or do we make each short about 10 minutes shorter?
Yes, the latter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Chase, why don't you give us your thoughts and favorite segment?
No, I mean, I walked in thinking that first one was my favorite segment, much like Mondo did, and the more we talked about it, the more I was like, yeah, that Diary of Frankenstein, it's just the right balance of offensive and just genuinely funny, I think. But I will give kudos to that first segment, because I do think that it nailed the homages, the era it was trying to capture the most, not just in terms of the narrative, but the special effects looked like they were from the 50s, which I thought was really, really, really cool. But that being said, though, the funnier one is Diary of Anne Frankenstein. I like Werebear fine. It's just I think that one suffers the most from its length. And no, the last one does actually. But honestly, if you're gonna cut one of these, cut that last one. But it's the wraparound, so that's what you do. You have 3 segments and then the wraparound.
Well, yeah. And to be fair, that wraparound could have been 3 minutes and it'd have been fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
You could have just had the movie end and be like, oh, and suddenly we realize there's zombies around all of these cars, and that's it.
Right.
I think that the problem I think with having different directors and anthology, that each one of them is in love with their segment, so forcing them to kill their babies, as they saw them, kill their darlings, is really, really tough to ask them, because they work so hard on their little bit.
I get that, but that's why you get a good editor that knows where they can cut out.
Yeah,
but I mean, again, this is supposed to be like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks kind of movie. So
and it's a grassroots effort. I mean, it just sounds like they were like, y'all want to do a movie? Sure.
Right.
Let's do it with the dollar that we have.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yes, my favorite from the jump is, even from the title, is the Diary of Anne Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I need a t-shirt of that. Actually, they have the model in their shop still. They did their annual Gorgon. They do a charity stream over a whole weekend. And in their shop, they had the model back there. And so, my goal is to someday go in there and take a picture with it, because it just...
Well, for Halloween, next Halloween, Jason, you need to go as Meshuggah.
Yeah, I might have to. My wife might get very mad at me, but...
I mean, never mind. She can always go with Eva Braun, but I don't think she wants to go there.
No.
Oh, dear.
Just give her the head pop. Just have her eyes bulge out like that dummy had.
Right.
No. That's what she'll look like if I dress like that.
You just look like a very disappointed wife on Halloween.
There you go. But yeah, it's an interesting time capsule of, a little bit of that kind of schlocky era. I feel like coming out of the 2000s and the 2010s, we're still kind of figuring out where horror is going to go. I feel like horror's matured quite a bit since then. If this movie came out now, people would lose their shit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm in agreement with Joe, with the sexual assault stuff. I get it. I agree, but it's also just kind of but let it do it once.
This is not a movie for you if you're gonna get offended by that.
Yeah. If you are easily offended, but again, I think that there's an argument. It's what's the point of this? And the point is to offend. That is the point.
To make you laugh.
Yeah, 100%. It's never mean spirited in what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I just feel like today a lot of things get twisted in the ways they're not meant to be. Yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just media literacy. Like people don't understand. Like they don't watch media the same way that they should. The same way they should. The way they should.
Right. But yeah, if you're down for this kind of schlock, I don't think it's a bad time as long as you know what you're getting into, and maybe break it up a little bit. I watched it over 2 nights, and I think that went down a lot better.
Oh yeah, that's how to do it. But honestly, so if you, but that's the thing. Like you start with the strong one and end with the weaker one both nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, no, I think I stopped after Werebears, so I went straight into Diary of Anne Frankenstein and then the rest.
That's the thing. You start with the really good one, and then you have the lesser one after that.
So, yeah. Alrighty then, Mondo, give us your song of the day.
I'm going to be really quick tonight, but a band I've talked about before on this podcast, Panopticon, from the Midwest. They released a new record called The Rime of Memory, and it's probably my album of the year. I've said this several times, but now that we're towards the end of the year, this is probably 1 or 2 for my album of the year. Panopticon, for anybody who hasn't heard before, black metal band, but they with a lot of folk influence and very nature influenced, I should say, and just some great stuff. I know, Jason, you checked them out a little bit and kind of like what you heard, so I would definitely recommend this to most people. And the new record just came out, The Rime of Memory, and all the songs are like 20 minutes long, though. It's one thing you gotta.
Oh my gosh!
Oh boy.
You had me.
It's
you had
6
me.
songs.
And y'all are bitching about 8-minute like belts in musicals. Like, I'm
Dude,
sorry.
Well,
Don't tell us how to meddle.
That's just noise.
Well, good night, guys, and I'm just kidding. But for a guy that doesn't like musicals, I love Bob's Burgers, and it's basically a musical. But it's a whole.
We're gonna have to work on this. I hate musicals thing of all of you. Like, this is
no.
This
I don't
is
hate.
I shouldn't hate. I don't enjoy them as much as some people do. I don't hate them. I've seen some I really like.
You haven't found the right musical. That's the thing. Because one day you'll find a musical.
I will not argue that, because that's probably true.
I went to the unauthorized Exorcist musical and had the time of my life.
Yeah, there's so many different, like there are as many genres of musical as there are of film. Like you can have like schlocky camp like this that's just trying to offend, or you can have like deep, serious Oscar bait or Tony Beatty shit.
Well, let me rephrase that then. I just don't like musicals on screen like in movies, but I do actually have gone to musicals and had a great time. I'll work on it.
That makes me so angry. I want to punch you.
All right, if you guys want to have us, if you guys want to make us watch a musical and come on your show, we'll do it.
Oh God, I'll have to think about like a musical that would work for a self-proclaimed musical hater.
Repo.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I've watched Repo.
It doesn't work for a lot of people.
Repo's, look, I like Repo. Repo's. I don't think Repo's a very good musical. I like Repo, but it's not a good musical. Like, I don't think it is.
What or Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah,
better.
Recently, Anne and the Apocalypse, was that it?
Mm-hmm.
Where I think
we
that's a musical.
Just covered that. Yeah,
it is definitely a musical. I'm trying to think of like even non-horror. I mean, like, have you ever seen Avenue Q? Like, Avenue Q is basically R-rated Sesame Street. Puppets 69 fuck in that. It won the Tony for Best Musical and beat Wicked in 2004.
It's amazing.
This puppet fucking musical.
It's very amazing.
I had a roommate who was very into musicals, and he was very into that at the time. So he played the songs for me a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of offensive, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Mono, was there anything else for your song?
Oh, no. That's all I got. Oh, yeah. The songs are 20 minutes long. I never actually named the song. Just fucking pick something off there. But I'll go with my favorite track is Winter's Ghost. Is 20 minutes long. My second, but An Autumn Storm is the leanest track at 9 minutes and 24 seconds. So
brevity.
I'm sorry. They're a great band. More people should listen to them. I want the guy to make a living off his music.
You know what? Because I don't care for metal music at all, so we'll swap. We'll do like a playlist swap.
I would never do that to you. I'd rather have your recommendations for musicals because I actually enjoy doing that.
I would listen to metal. The problem is with musicals, like it's hard to send someone like a playlist of musical songs because like hearing them out of context isn't gonna be the best way to win you over.
No, I get that, but if I send you a playlist, you may never talk to me again. After
Ooh, challenge accepted.
Now, if we did a musical episode of Chucky with Jennifer Tilly leading, then Mondo would be all into it.
There we go.
Question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it not a thing already? Like,
actually, no, I can guarantee you, Chucky will eventually do a musical episode. Like they absolutely will.
Well, I mean, stop and think for a second. They've done that in my head.
Yeah. I'm a wrestling nerd, but if you remember, Chucky he feuded with Rick Steiner in WCW wrestling back in the 90s. Insane.
That was great. All right. Before we go, I just wanted to ask if anyone has any favorite drive-in movie theater experiences, if you've even been to a drive-in movie theater, because that's something kind of died out a little bit, I think, in our eras. I did go to one when I was a kid to see Jurassic Park. It was my best, and that was terrifying when I was a kid. That was about the only time I remember until during COVID when Scream came out, Scream 5. And I went to see it, but I wasn't comfortable going to a theater, so I went to a drive-in movie theater to see it, which was cool, but as the movie-going experience, it wasn't great because you're at an angle. And for a movie like Scream, you're trying to like look for clues and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That's how I feel about drive-ins, and I mean, I love a drive-in experience, but I would almost always rather go see a movie I've already seen at a drive-in than a new watch.
Yeah. Like so at one point, I was going to go see a screening of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, like from the early '90s during COVID drive-in, but it got canceled. So.
Oh. I thought you said you got cancer. I was like, oh my god.
I'm pretty sure someone like in the staff got COVID, and that's why they canceled it. But
probably
no, I did not get cancer. Thank God. Mondo, have you been?
The only time I've been to the drive-in in the past 30 years is when I went to Joe Bob's drive-in down here. They did at the Vegas, I forgot what it's called, the Vegas Winds Drive-in. And I'm going to call this venue out right now because they did the Joe Bob drive-in, but they don't show any underground movies. They don't do any kind of cool like monster movies on Mondays or anything like that. They just kind of cashed in on Joe Bob and said, screw you guys. So I'm calling that drive-in out. But I did have a great time though. And I did enjoy, there's something a little bit infectious of knowing you're watching the same movies, all these people in all these cars. It was also a festival and people up front in lawn chairs. So that was a really cool aspect of it. My only complaint was trying to tune my radio into that FM station and then being somehow terrified that my car battery is going to die. So my anxiety couldn't handle that. So I had to just listen to the speakers outside.
Oh my God.
I will say, when I saw,
I drove into a drive-in before in my adult life, and I have bad anxiety. I'm like, I cannot handle the fact that I might not be able to get home.
That tracks.
Yeah, I will say when I saw Scream, I went to go before the movie to get some concessions. I could definitely smell which cars were smoking weed. It was very, very obvious.
Well, that also tracks. Yeah.
Joe, do they have many of them in Canada? Is that a thing there? Is it too cold?
So
like, do you like cloudy, like the not weather?
Is it too cold?
Apparently, nowhere in America gets cold. Apparently,
well, I'm saying I'm sure there's more of them in Southern California than would be in Minnesota.
Yeah, sure. You're more right than you know. So they are open seasonally if they exist. Most of them have closed. There's like one just outside of Toronto. I don't drive, so I was actually going to try and go and see Scream during the pandemic because they were doing it at the drive-in, and the nearest one was like 4 hours away. Like it was really disappointing. There was a nearer drive-in, but it was not open because it was the middle of winter.
See, okay, valid question.
Maybe one day
in Southern California, where it's always 75 degrees and beautiful.
Yeah, it's actually raining tonight for the first time in like weeks, but
oh, rain, you poor baby.
I know. No, I'm
they
like
don't know how to
out in
handle it.
shorts,
You have to remember.
and everyone freaks out when it rains here. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Same here.
I'm from Oregon, so
It's different when it rains here in Vegas. Everyone just decides I just need to go drive for some reason and drive poorly, and we have 3,000 accidents. It's ridiculous.
Desert accidents, desert rain accidents.
Well, also there's the water just stays on top of the road because that oil never gets washed off. It makes the road super slick. But also we have the worst drivers in the world in Las Vegas. I'm just gonna say that.
I don't know, man. Texas has some competition for you.
I travel for a living for work, so I've been to like every state, and I will still stand by. Because the problem here is we don't respect red lights. I mean, if you ever come to Vegas, and the first thing I hear from people is, how come everyone waits like 5 seconds before going on a green light? It's like, oh, because everybody just runs red lights here. You can't trust anybody until they're fully stopped.
Texas is full of bad drivers, but when I moved to Colorado, I was like, wow, people here aren't really necessarily bad drivers. I mean, they are bad drivers, but I think they're high all the time, which sounds like a cliche, but I really do think people are high all the time because they're driving so fucking slow everywhere.
it's very possible.
I was just in Philly, and everybody there drives aggressively, like cautious. I don't know what better to put that. Like they'll flip you off and yell at you because they want you, because you have your blinker on and they want you to get in front of them. It's really weird. It's like this terrible politeness that people from Philly have to have.
All right. Then, Joe, I had one question for you. You mentioned that you do curling, and my question is,
oh, cool.
Is that like a pastime like in America with bowling? Like what's the culture around that?
Okay. This is interesting because I didn't grow up with it, but a lot of the people I play with did. So it's one of those, if you grew up in a small town, you are much more inclined to do it because there isn't much else to do. But yeah, it's obviously a winter-only recreational activity. Some people can do it professionally, but you have to get really, really good. And a lot of people confuse it for, oh, it's just shuffleboard on ice, and it's not. The reason it's called curling is because the rocks will curl. So you have to learn to throw out, and then they will come in.
I had no idea that's why it was called that.
But like, do they have like curling rinks where like people are like drinking beers and eating snacks while the people are curling, or is it like in America where like I said, like bowling is kind of how I was picturing it a little bit, where it's kind of like a communal hangout kind of thing, or is it more?
The people who curl tend to hang around, and it is a very social activity. So it's like where I do the majority of my drinking during the week. But yeah, they're not like in common places where you could just, like, oh, pop into the curling club. It's like they're also kind of dying out. Actually, you know what? They might be like a bowling alley because I don't know how prolific bowling alleys are anymore. But yeah, they're often like membership things. So it's a league where you have to pay to sign up. It's not like you can just walk in and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this.
Very interesting. I think
you can find good videos on YouTube about like all the little intricacies of curling, because it kind of I forgot years ago, I think the American curling team did really good in the Olympics, so I kind of got into it for a little while.
Yeah.
So I started watching YouTube videos on how it works, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of strategy and a lot of skill behind it.
It's strategy. Yeah.
There was, I think, a TikTok about like, people who get really intense into curling, yelling and everything. I was like, wow. Okay, well, that wraps up another episode. Joe and Trace, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow the Horror Queers?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us at Horror Queers pretty much anywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are on Bloody FM, Bloody Disgusting's podcast network, so you can find us on Bloody Disgusting. Did I miss anything, Joe? This is my first time doing this.
Well, no. Well, shout out to your Facebook group. I'm on there, and they have a lot of good discussions. It's a fun group.
I think I'll speak for both of us. Like, we're both very proud of that Facebook group. Like, I don't like Facebook groups, but I like ours because I feel like we have a really good group of 1,000 people in there with a really good rapport who are polite to each other.
Yeah,
That's cool.
We don't suffer people to be mean spirited or to just kind of do the regular shenanigans that sometimes pop up in the group. So we're pretty happy with the way that people conduct themselves. And often, people have some interesting prompts. So they'll say, "Hey, what did you think of this movie?" And people don't like it. They don't feel the need to say, "Oh, that movie fucking sucks and I hate you."
I mean, the fact that your group created a whole subgroup to talk about the new Scream movies, so they would avoid spoilers, I was like, wow, these people really care.
Well, and the funny thing is, though, when Scream 6 was coming, I feel like we got so many bots coming into that group
so many.
when Scream 6 came out, and that was a mistake on my part, because when I made the group, I didn't make it a private group, I made it a public group, and that was very stupid.
All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. Pleasure as always. Next week, we'll be covering the very last episode of Tales from the Crypt, Third Pig. We appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, and check out our YouTube channel for videos of these podcasts. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.